What is up, everybody? This is Recap Rewind. I am J-Lag, and I'm here with
N-Bea.
And today we're doing a super
special Riverdale episode.
Yay!
We're doing the comics versus the TV series.
Riverdale.
TV
versus comic.
Ooh, I like that.
Bum, bum, bum. So we're gonna break it down into a few sections. The first section, we took to Twitter, and we called out a few
our fans.
Hey fans, hey guys,
our friends on Twitter.
Hi guys. So we asked you guys a few questions and wanted to know what you guys wanted to know about the show. And the next part, we're gonna talk about the characters in general, and we wanted to really focus on some major differences in who these characters are in the show versus on the in the comic books.
And we're talking side characters. We're not talking about Betty, Archie. We're not talking about those. We're talking about the side characters that we haven't really heard much about.
Right.
So we're going to dissect and talk and see what we get.
Right.
And then the final
section is more just about the major differences about the show. And in this part, I think we might bring the main characters back into it and talk a little bit about
it all.
Those major, just talk about all the major differences about the comic book and the show. So I hope you guys are excited to listen, and let's just get right into it.
Yeah. So we took to Twitter and we were like, hey, y'all, let us know what you guys want us to talk about.
Yeah.
What we can, discuss in our episode and sort of break it down. And our first question was from @PotterFan92. And they were wondering about the audience reaction between Grundy in Riverdale and Ezra, which is the teacher in PLL. I love this question.
Yeah.
Because we've talked about this, I think, like offline a lot.
For sure.
And I think, we haven't really talked about it on the show, but we've talked about how different it was.
Yeah.
It is different because Ezra was a guy.
Yeah.
And Grundy was a woman.
Yeah.
And Ezra got away with it from time.
For
he's been hitting
seasons.
that girl, hitting her, hooking up, I meant. And nothing ever really came of it, right? He didn't get arrested, obviously.
I mean, he didn't get arrested, but he did have a few storylines where it was like
close.
It was very close.
It was close.
It's like, you're a pedophile.
He's like, but I'm so talented as a writer,
and I'm also like a super young teacher.
And I'm like,
so
I look young.
Yeah.
So I can get away with it, but the woman can, obviously.
The woman can.
She can't.
Oh, she can't.
Because as soon as Grundy got booked, they freaking tossed her out of the town.
I mean, the way that I look at it too is, I think that just because of the way the writing is done in the show, they are not as sloppy as PLL.
You're right.
They kind of wanted to. They didn't want. I'm glad they did, and I think we talked about this way back when the show kind of started. I'm really glad that they didn't focus on an adulterous relationship with a teacher. I think that, number one, this fan base has already seen that in shows like PLL, so playing it out in a new show, something that has a fresh take on, a teen drama, do we need to see that on the other flip side? Do we really need to see? I get your point when it comes to, Grundy versus Ezra as
male,
the female, male character.
More than that though, yeah.
But I think beyond that, I think it's just I didn't want to see that anyway.
And I think you mentioned this one time before, and that the fact that Grundy's character was in the beginning episode. By episode 4, she was cut.
She was gone.
Yeah. And we appreciate that. We're like, okay, it's good that she didn't linger.
Yeah.
It's good that he wasn't on his teacher's storyline for the whole freaking season.
Right.
And that's just, a testament to how well these writers, how they're writing the show and the pace of the season.
Yeah.
It really I'm sure she's going to come back.
Yeah,
Don't get me
that's
wrong.
what I'm saying. We also know that
back.
At some point in time she will come back, but it won't be as annoying as we'll have a break from her, so we'll think less about the fact that she had this whole sexual drama with Archie, and more about maybe if she's a literal crazy person who has something to do with the murder. We don't know that yet. So I think reintroducing her later on in the storyline will help the character be more than just a character, a teacher and a student kind of situation drama.
And just jumping off that same question, I don't mean to bash PLL because I feel like a lot of the times we compare Riverdale to hate. PLL, and there's no hate. Although the show is the show was bad. PLL was bad. It was just cheesy. It was poorly written, poorly paced out. We just felt like stories kept going in circles.
Yeah.
So yeah. I don't know. I don't want to keep bashing it, but it was interesting that this question was like
one of the questions.
Teacher like from PLL. Like,
yeah,
basically.
yeah, exactly. It's very true.
Because we've seen the teacher.
Yeah.
We've seen it in a lot of shows. You know, happened in Dawson's Creek. It happened in Gossip Girl, I think.
True.
Maybe.
Yeah, I'm sure it did.
So you know, we've seen it. It's just funny that it was. Yeah. Anyways.
Came back around.
Yeah. So the second question from our Twitter fan base is from @HeyTheReal85. And she asks, why is Archie so uninteresting? And will that change? And thoughts on Polly after she has the baby.
Okay, so let's tackle the first question first.
Why
is Archie so uninteresting?
Yeah, I died at this question.
That's a great analysis, because I think we kind of agree. We definitely
agree. I feel like he is that guy, especially in the comic books, right? He is so...
I think he's such a neutral. I think it's cool, even in the comic books, that he's such a neutral character. And by neutral I mean he doesn't really have his own personality.
You know what? Yes, you're right.
Does that make sense?
Your personality, but also I also feel like because he's so middle, you never know his motivation.
Yeah.
You never know what he's really gonna do.
What he's really thinking.
Because you're like, what does he think anyways?
Yeah.
He never thinks. People always think for him.
The entire time you're basically, when he gets himself into some sort of situation, he's got this very much like an Archie kind of like feel to him. Like you always know he's going to get up to something stupid or careless or ridiculous.
Yeah.
So you kind of write him off as a character who has some sort of motivation or has his own desires and what makes him exciting and special. If you're mentioning, at Hey the Real 85 about the fact that, they gave him this like musical storyline and the typical teacher relationship, and I don't know. Like I think those are very typical storylines to give a main character, in all honesty, in comparison to what everybody else is kind of going through. But
it's not that he's uninteresting, because you're like, those stories are interesting. It still piques my interest, but like compared to the other characters, he seems that way.
Yes.
Which is amazing, because like the comic book was called Archie, but in the show, all these other characters, there's so many layers to them, like Veronica and Betty and Juggy and like even like the randoms like Cheryl, like you still want to know about them too. And,
sure.
And so compared to Archie's like, okay, Archie who? Like, okay, cool.
Yeah. But I think that if he wasn't, I think it just has to do with the fact that he is the central point of this comic book series as well as a TV show now. And he needs to be a little neutral. If he was a bad boy, if he was someone who like always got himself into some like crazy trouble, like, we know that Veronica's got the spice to her. So she's going to go clubbing and dancing and get into some trouble, get a little tipsy, have some fun with her friends. We know that, at least the way it's portrayed in the show, that Betty's kind of like this investigative person who kind of wants to uncover things, and she's helpful. So she like helps her sister all the time. And, there's all these things that she has in terms of qualities. We know that Jughead has this kind of character. But when it comes to Archie, it's very... He kind of just has to stay as neutral as possible. He's the thing that brings everything together, though. Like he's the reason why we now know that the dad, Jughead's dad, is kind of involved in this whole situation.
True.
Like he makes those connections with the people, and I think that's the most interesting thing about Archie, and what will always be the most interesting thing about Archie is the people that he connects to and connects with, and people that are attracted to his particular personality. So yeah, I think that's just a normal kind of analysis of like who he is. Will he change? No, but I think it'll be a show in itself on an interest level just based on what happens around him.
I think he will change. I think what you're saying, how he's playing the middle field right now, I think the most interesting characters are always on opposite spectrums of like villain or like good guy.
Yeah.
And I think the best characters are like when they're on that like fine line of like villain but like good still, and I want to see Archie there. I want to, whether or not it will happen, I want to see that happen. I want to see him be like a dick, and I want to see him like play that role where like he's whatever. I just want to see it. That's what I want to see from him.
And I'm sure we will.
Yeah.
But I think they want to play it safe with him because he's such a wholesome character.
At least right now. Yeah, for sure. And then in terms of like what thoughts on Polly and like what's gonna happen
after the baby pops.
If the baby's even real.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question.
Let's go with the baby's real at this point.
Yeah, I think in terms of what's going on with Polly and the fact that she's moving in with the Lodges, I I guess we're just gonna see her see this baby through, this theoretical baby.
But then, like, what happens?
And then what happens next?
Like, what? She dips from high school and like has to take care of a baby. Like, I don't see the baby in the picture.
Do you possibly see some sort of? So this is just me just talking out loud, but we know that these shows, and once again, I'm gonna make the comparison to Pretty Little Liars.
Yeah.
They like to layer a murder with another murder.
Oh man.
So do you think that
you
maybe
Polly's gonna be?
She might be.
Bye.
She might be like.
You're right.
An extra layer. I'm not saying that her specifically, but it could become a situation. Who knows? Maybe the baby gets kidnapped.
Yeah, I mean that's highly. That's probably what's gonna happen.
Highly likely.
Because the Blossoms will probably like steal the baby.
Yeah, with the CIA like helping them. Yeah, we don't like. I don't know. I'm not
I don't
saying
know,
that's gonna happen.
but I don't see the show with a baby in it, with Polly's baby at least, because I barely see the show with Polly in it right now
to begin with,
because like she's so random, but now like she's there. But I don't know. I don't see the show with another baby. I don't know what the baby. I know the idea of the baby can change a lot in the storyline and like you know how characters like interact, but whatever. But once the baby's like physically alive, like I don't know what the baby's gonna do.
It's
just a baby.
It's just a baby. What is it? What kind of connection?
Unless like Alice Cooper becomes a grandma and she's like so nice.
She's so nice to the baby.
Like melts her heart.
Yeah, I mean, I think I did make this connection before when it comes to like Game of Thrones and how like Jon Snow, the character Jon Snow, like was represented like the marriage of two families. The birth kind of marries two families together. So whether this baby is going to be like the bury the hatchet situation where like those two are going to have to be like, now this baby's born.
We have to like be nice to each other.
Cordial with
but
each
then
other.
What? You know what I mean? Like then what?
But then what? That's
like,
a great question. Yeah.
So okay, big deal.
Like, you know? We don't know. Or is there going to be a full out war for this baby? Like we have no idea what can happen and like what the repercussions might be for Polly or the baby or the Coopers or the Blossoms.
And maybe it's not Jason's baby. Oh my god, what if it's Archie? No, seriously.
Polly, how'd you do that?
You don't think she can hook up with Archie? Everyone's obsessed with Archie, obviously. You don't think Archie could get it in with Polly?
I guess that's possible.
I don't know, but that could be because like this poor baby doesn't have a daddy anymore.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? So like
surrogate baby, daddy.
You don't know. There's daddy issues. So we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
You don't know.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Good point.
Right? Like, imagine.
What
the baby comes out with red hair and they're like, no, true, that's Jason. What? Archie?
Suddenly it becomes like a Passions episode.
Oh my god. Clearly I've been watching too many soaps. But yeah, you never know.
Yeah, definitely possible.
Thanks for your questions, guys. Keep it up. We want to hear more. And
if you have any other questions, we can always attach them to a new episode. So let us know.
And we're going to get right into, dissecting these characters with our special guest.
Yeah.
So
here we go. We got some super special guests here.
Super special.
Because these two were longtime fans from two separate generations. So one of them, she's been a part of the comic. She's been following the comic book series from time. You know, like the 80s, 70s, and probably even further. She probably read them earlier on. And then she kind of tapered off as things kind of,
as she got older,
as life happens. Yeah. And we also have a guest who started reading them very early or more recent guest. So a new generation.
Years ago, new gen comics.
Yeah, and reading all the new gen comics as well. So it'll be interesting to see both of their perspectives. So hopefully you guys like this episode and what we
let
talk
us
about.
know if you guys want to see or hear more of these episodes.
For sure. I think we're definitely doing this because we have a bit of a hiatus.
Yeah, so sad.
So annoying. But at the same time, I think it's a great way to talk about the show and get a little bit of a history on Riverdale and get a few other opinions on it.
So we have T, who's been reading the comics for some time, right?
Yeah, I have. I actually started reading them, I would say, when I was in elementary school. So that would be late 80s to early 90s, probably a little bit even into high school, just for old time's sake, just because I love them so much, I couldn't let them go. Right. So that was around the time frame that I started reading them.
Cool.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
And A, how about you?
Well, I actually started reading the comics I believe it was sometime around 2007, so like almost 10 years ago. I have not been stopped reading them since I've been having, I have like a huge collection of them at my house, and my mom says I have too much. Boy, she made me right, but still, Archie comics, you gotta love them.
So, characters. I don't want to talk about the main four, like Archie, Betty, Veronica, Jughead, just because I feel like there's been talk about those characters and how they're different from the comics. I want to talk about some of the side characters. So we'll get into it. I think Kevin Keller is like my first choice.
Yeah, and that was mine too, I think, for sure.
Just a tidbit, he arrived in the comic books in 2010. So he was definitely not when you were reading Archie. He wasn't in there, right? Kevin Keller?
Most definitely not. So basically, when I was reading them, it wasn't reflective of the current time. So when I was reading them, the comics were still very much set in the 50s to 60s.
Yeah.
Right,
Americana.
right.
Yes.
The classic.
Exactly. So everything about it was very wholesome. It wasn't even just that they didn't have a gay character. It was everyone was in a nuclear family.
Right.
You know, a mom and a dad, and everybody was together, and there was no talk of divorce, and there was no talk of sexuality whatsoever, other than very, let's say, PG-13. Archie would go to the drive-in and come home with, you know, a lipstick mark on his cheek or something like that.
Yeah.
It was very much that kind of tone. So
PG.
I could definitely not imagine anything progressive in any sense going on in the time that I was reading it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, for sure he wouldn't have existed in that world, which is crazy to think, right?
It is pretty crazy, but it's cool. I mean, it's cool that something like a comic book would be that has had such a long-standing idea of what it means to be Archie and live in that world. Create a character like this in 2010, so you probably even know a little bit more about him. And
how did he start, like, in the comics?
It was at the end of one of my B&V Comics Double Digest novels, which basically gives a background, insider, and introduction of Kevin Keller. We basically, and if you have that issue, I'm not really sure which one, but if you have it, you may already know what I'm talking about. Basically, he's in his room, he's basically introducing his life, his background from his dad being a military, like working in a military force and moving around a little often. And an interesting thing, I know you guys aren't at the difference bit, but I might as well say it from now. What's interesting about Kevin Keller in the comics is that he's like his Riverdale his TV counterpart. Both versions are gay, which is really interesting to hear about.
So they kept that part of him for sure, like
Right.
Exactly.
And you mentioned that his dad is in the military in the comic books.
Yes.
And we know that in the TV show he is the sheriff of the town.
Right.
So I guess
he's still
they kind
part
of
of this like
military-ish official.
Sort of. Like a sheriff could be like the modern government of today.
Sure,
right?
yeah, especially in a small town like Riverdale.
And
That's
I
cool.
think what I love, and I think we've talked about this in our previous podcast, I love how different they've written Kevin. Just because I feel like in other shows, the gay character is always like that one gay character.
Yeah.
And Kevin's never been that one gay character. He's more than that, right? I feel like he has his like funny lines. He comes in with like the scoop on like Twitter, like what's everyone tweeting about.
I mean, I think he's a new age stereotype, if you want to look at it that way. Like the stereotypical old age television gay characters that we know, I think they had to push the boundaries, that they had to be extremely campy, they had to, have a certain edge to them. Whereas I think a character like Kevin and how it's presented, at least in the TV show, I'd love to know how he was presented in the comic books, but in the television show, he's a lot more well-rounded. That's not his only identifier.
Yeah, right.
And I think that's a really cool thing to
also,
see.
my prediction, and I've said this before, I feel like Kevin has to do something with.
I think so
Yeah.
too. I think we've both talked about it a few times.
Tell them why we think that.
I think that there's a lot of things that have kind of like yellow flagged, at least for me, in the television show. And one of the things that I would say is when they went to do when the movie theater was closing down a few episodes ago, and they went around and said, what would be your favorite movie to screen? And I forget what everybody was saying.
Veronica was like Rebel Without a Cause or something.
Yeah, Rebel Without a Cause. And what his was The Talented Mr. Ripley.
Oh, that's right.
The Talented Mr. Ripley, from what we know, at least, it's about a serial killer.
Yeah, like he's hiding.
Who steals people's identities. And, it's a very... So it was a very interesting thing for him to decide on.
To say that.
I think there was some sort of... gay angle when it comes to that movie though, but
was
I
it?
don't think
Oh,
that.
okay, okay.
But
Okay,
but it was a
okay.
very
Yeah.
terrifyingly thriller side to it too. So I was very interested. Like, so that was one of the flags that kind of hit me. And I don't know. I feel like his presence is kind of been pulled back in the last few episodes too. So I feel like not
discovered
knowing
the
what he's up to is
body.
he discovered the body.
Which, yeah, okay, he might not, whatever. But
Right.
also, when he walks into his dad's house, like the house, and the dad has like the whole wall with like all the photos.
Right.
That one moment, I swear, Kevin like looked like back, like as if like, oh crap, like I don't know. He just like looked at it like for a longer period of time,
reaction shot.
the camera shot, and I was like, why are they holding that on his face? Like as if he's like so like upset that the wall is like is there.
Yeah.
And I just feel like he's on top of everyone's story.
It's
like
true.
he knows what's happening with Veronica, with Betty. He knows like what's going on and what's the word. And
I still think, I mean, N-Bea and I have talked about the fact that he's probably a proxy to a larger story. Like, now we know that the snakes might be involved in all of this too. But, he might be a character that kind of has been running around and like living his life a little bit. We know that even in that movie episode, he had some sort of connection with a snake.
Yeah.
And it seemed like they had a bit of a past. So there definitely could be some sort of connection with him and the gang and him maybe even getting the scoop on everybody before, so it's definitely a possibility.
Kevin Keller.
That's so
coming
interesting.
Wow.
Yeah. Now I'm looking at him in a yeah.
Oh man.
And I guess in the
I would never have thought Kevin Keller would be that kind of person.
yeah. So I was gonna ask that in the comic books, what we see in the television show. Is there anything that you've noticed that is different or interesting about that character?
So far nothing. I don't know, bloodthirsty or psychotic or whatever.
So who's his best friend in the comic? Is it still Betty?
From the excerpt I read, it turns out Veronica Lodge was his best friend.
Oh, okay, that
I can
makes
see
sense.
that. I can
makes
see
sense.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like already in the show they're getting closer now because Betty's like all on her own mission.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. When they went dancing, she chose her.
Yeah.
Oh
Her
yeah.
best
Token
gig.
gay guy.
Her best gig.
Yeah.
Okay, so we can move on. Kevin Keller,
Yeah.
Denzel.
Fine.
Mary Andrews, who's actually Archie's mom.
Who we haven't been introduced to in the
Not
television
yet,
show yet.
but we're getting ahead of it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we are. Because
And because they already cast her, Molly Ringwald is gonna play Archie's mom.
Throwback.
So we definitely, I feel like it's
Yeah.
gonna come back. She's gonna come in season 1. I feel
Yeah.
like she's gonna make an appearance.
She's got to. I think she has to. I think she's been alluded to too many times. But at the same time, we don't know what her connection is to the whole story.
Right.
So I'm sure they're going to be able to
So-
plop her in whenever
All right.
they
So
see
A,
fit.
who is Archie's mom in the comic books? Is she just like a sweet old mama?
Yeah, sweet old typical average teenage mom, loving and caring for the son, a protective type, trying to get him to do things he doesn't like to, like chores and such. Well, like that's pretty much like average bit. I can't really
Yeah.
imagine her being any other way in the
Yeah.
TV show, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
And T, was it the same for you as well when you were reading them? Was she kind of like a background yelling, finger pointing
mom.
character?
Exactly. She was very matronly. I even think she had a bit of a belly from what I remember. like a short hairdo. I can just
Okay.
picture her being at the sink just washing dishes when, Archie was leaving for school in the morning, that
Right.
type of thing. And just like A said, like constantly just yelling at him to do his chores before he could, go on a date with Veronica or whatever. the
Yeah, you
situation
do
was
see
at.
that often in the comics.
Yeah. So very much in the background and not at all like the show where the parents
Are
have
divorced.
These,
They're separated.
They're divorced and they have
Yep.
these whole other lives going on outside their
Oh.
children.
Drama.
And you're actually, you're making a very good point. I think that's one of the things in the show. They are
Yes.
bringing the parents to the forefront. So
Yeah.
now that these histories that we don't really see in the comics, I don't know if Archie's mom ever had a double digest comic herself,
No
in
way.
all the entire series. And what that
Probably
would look
not.
like.
Probably not.
But it's really interesting that they're even pulling up, his dad and Veronica's mom. Like all of the parents kind of have a bit of a history in Riverdale.
In the
show.
comics, are they ever like lovey-dovey with each other, the parents, or are they just kind of like in their own scenes? Like Fred's on one scene and like the mom's in one scene.
Yeah, it's from my experience, they're just
They're just there.
they're just
Oh,
there,
okay. So they're
and
just,
it's more about them interacting with the kids versus
Yeah.
each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of how I would
cool,
view it
yeah,
too,
yeah.
actually. Yeah.
And I kind of wonder if in the show, if giving the parents their own kind of storylines and, casting all these icons from the 80s
Yeah.
and 90s,
Right.
part of me kind of
Oh.
wonders if that's to appeal to the now
Yes.
older readers, like such as myself,
Sure.
who would kind of find that really interesting.
Yeah.
You know, in addition to the kind of more teenager like plot lines and that
Right.
kind of
You
thing.
never know
So,
what
Yeah.
the mom was doing after she
Yeah.
finished doing the dishes.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. That's very. And
I also love how they're not only the parents, but they're also like from Riverdale, so they have their own past
Yes.
with the other parents
Right,
too.
right.
So like Fred used to date Veronica's
Yeah.
mom, so it's not just like they're just parents; they have like history,
Yeah.
and it goes back.
Which makes perfect sense in that small town atmosphere.
sure.
That's usually what happens.
sure.
It's,
Interesting,
it's practically
actually.
incestuous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I always wondered, and this happened like I think in episode 5 maybe or 6, but I always assumed that Veronica's. So now that we know Hermione was from Riverdale,
Right.
But was
Yeah.
the dad from Riverdale too? And then he
Right.
just like made it big and then like moved to
Right.
New York. Because I always assumed that like she was from New York, because her dad was from New York. You
Sure,
know?
sure.
Like a big New York City like mogul.
Yeah.
But then when Blossom's dad, Cheryl's dad,
Yeah.
he's like, ask your dad about the Sweetwater River,
What had
the
happened,
maple
yeah.
syrup, and I was like, oh, he must
Maybe
have
he was
ties
here and then he
to
left.
Riverdale too.
That's
So
possible.
they're all from Riverdale. Like they all
Sure.
have drama.
Yeah. Yeah, that
crazy.
could be the case.
Crazy.
For sure.
Also, Alice. I feel like Alice has drama from the past too.
She knows a lot
She
too.
knows
She
a
does.
lot.
'Cause she's
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
reporter.
And you made a good comment.
Mm-hmm.
You were like, when what's her face, Polly.
Yeah.
When Veronica tells Polly to come live with them,
Yeah.
and Hermione was like, "I'll do anything for Alice Cooper's daughters." Remember?
Right.
And you were like, "I wonder why she." Would
I was
say
like,
that.
I wonder why that. Yeah, I definitely question that.
Maybe
reasoning.
they were like besties back in time.
They were
like
besties, or
Alice
they were
and Hermione.
frenemies, or what the
possible,
deal
yeah.
was.
Makes a lot enough
But
sense.
at the same time, you know, like I also mentioned to NB that I rewatched, you know, the pilot episode of Riverdale and how essentially Alice says, don't trust
She's-
any of those people.
Yeah.
Don't trust Archie. Don't trust the
Yeah.
lodges. Don't trust this person. So for her to say that to her daughter, I don't know if it's just her being super controlling and crazy, which is clearly what
Highly
we see
likely.
anyway.
Yeah, makes sense to me. Makes sense to me. You know?
But also
Yeah.
maybe there is a little bit of history or drama. Maybe Hermione at some point screwed her over in the past.
Yeah,
And we haven't
because-
seen that
and
yet.
also, Alice got punched out.
She got
At that-
decked by.
Oh,
Remember
yeah.
she gets punched out?
Oh, yeah.
By,
It was so
Cheryl
crazy.
Blossom's mom.
Cheryl
Yeah.
Blossom's
So,
mom. So
yeah.
there's definitely
They all
some
have drama.
catty drama
Yeah.
going on at the top level for sure.
Okay, so moving on.
All right.
This character, and I had no idea
Uh-huh.
that Sabrina the Teenage Witch was from Archie Comics.
I did
Oh,
not
you
know
didn't?
that
I didn't
until
know.
literally just now.
She is actually,
so,
yeah.
out of
So
the comic
interesting.
book world, but I
Yeah.
had no idea that she was adapted from the comic books.
She actually
Wow.
was.
So what? Like, who is she in the comic books? Is she like? Does she have superpowers?
Well,
like
She does.
Yeah.
So she was a teenage witch.
Yeah, she was.
She actually has her own, I believe,
like
series of comics.
Yeah.
yeah, she does
But I'm assuming
actually.
she
Yeah.
originated from like the Archie world.
Oh, yeah,
Yes,
she did
and then-
originate from the
yeah,
Archie
they
comics.
From the
will-
same writer.
Yeah, from what
Same
I
writer.
remember, they would stick a Sabrina strip in the
Oh,
the
cool.
books here and
That's
there.
so
Okay.
cool.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I do. She was definitely a teenage witch, but nobody knew. Nobody was supposed to
Okay.
know. And let's see. She lived with her two aunts.
The ants, yeah.
I'm not sure what happened to her parents, but she lived with her two aunts,
Oh.
and she had a human or mortal, if you want to call it, boyfriend.
Okay.
And the idea was that she had to keep her powers a secret from everybody.
Which is sort of like what happened in the show.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
See,
In
I
her
never
show.
watched.
Oh, you
the
never
sh-
watched
Are you
the
talking
show?
about the Melissa Joan Hart
Yeah.
show?
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
I never watched
Yeah.
that.
Okay,
Yeah, I actually
interesting.
never watched that. But yeah, that's basically from what I remember, and it was.
So interesting.
But it's interesting because also I feel like they've had a like it's she's a witch. Like where does this witch part come from in this show
Right.
that's so like real and very like I don't get it. It's very random.
In fact, there's one particular, I'm not technically sure if it's an Archie and Sabrina crossover, but there's one interesting story that's mainly a flashback. Archie tells Benny and Veronica a story about how he actually kind of considered dating Sabrina. This was really one of the recent Archie comics.
Oh,
This is
okay.
where Sabrina and Harvey had broken up. Archie was in a bit of a girl trauma, but that's typical Archie.
Of course, typical
Yeah.
Archie.
Yeah. So Sabrina and Archie hook up, and obviously Sabrina's aunts mess around with Archie using their magic powers. Eventually, Archie discovers that Sabrina and her family have powers, and of course, by the end of the story, Archie's memory of the whole magic thing is wiped as the story ends. And as an interesting note, I wonder if that might actually be how Sabrina the Teenage Witch might actually come up in the Riverdale series. Maybe she'll get a little careless with her powers, with all the trauma, and maybe somehow she'll be exposed.
How exciting.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That's really cool that they have that angle. I'm really excited to see if that ends up becoming...
Are you down to see her in the show?
Sure. I'm down, maybe later. I think right now...
A lot going on already.
I think I like it being rooted in the real
world.
high school-ish
That's what I
life.
mean. Like,
So yeah, maybe she
female
won't have a
powers.
place in the comic books. We
Yeah.
never know. Maybe in like season 8 when they're like running out of
when there's
ideas.
zombies. Because Archie also had a zombie version, right? There's a
Yes,
Archie
there's like
zombie
a dead version.
Yeah.
Archie zombie?
It's
The
like
only-
an
the only thing I-
alternate universe.
Really? An Archie zombie alternate universe?
Yeah.
That'll be cool.
Yeah.
Okay, and our last kind of group, I chose Josie and the Pussycats. Because I found it interesting that in the comic book, they came to life, I guess, in 1963.
Yeah.
In the comics.
Yeah.
But Valerie and Archie only became a thing in 2010.
Oh wow.
See? So they were like
Interesting.
lurking that whole time as a group. But in 2010, they decided to like actually like
Bring them together.
Archie, like connect Archie with Val.
Right. First of all, I didn't even know that Josie and the Pussycats were a part of the Riverdale storyline
We're so
at
out
all.
of it.
I was like, oh,
Didn't see that coming.
You mean that movie with what's her name? Rachel
Lee Cook.
Yeah.
Cook. She
Oh.
was like the main character in it.
She
and
was like the
that's
girl
what I
in the
know
90s.
about Josie
Yeah.
and the Pussycats. But
Yeah.
knowing that they came from the comic books, I'm a dodo about that.
Comic books, and that they were all white, I think, right? Guys?
Well, almost all of them. Like Josie and Melody, they were both white, but Valerie was black.
So, yeah.
Cool.
So,
So even back then, they still had them as that trio with a little bit of mix.
yeah, and now they're sort of like the Destiny's Child of Riverdale.
I'd say so.
Yeah, they call
for
them
sure,
that,
I'd say
for sure.
so. Yeah.
So my question, I
cool.
found this interesting just because in the show now, Archie's sort of feeling Valerie. So why did it take so long in the comics?
Yeah.
And I know why,
Okay.
but I don't want to say why. So I'm not about to go on a rant right now. But like it's just interesting that they connected those two characters so much later on
Oh
in
yeah,
2010,
for sure.
like Valerie and Archie.
Why did no one think of that,
We'll know
actually?
exactly why.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Like, what are you thinking about Josie and the Pussycats?
Well, I love how the show is so diverse. I love how they changed the characters, even how Reggie is Asian. Amazing.
Yeah.
And definitely. I just think that if they kept the comics the way it was, I don't think it would continue to
doesn't make
have
sense.
appeal
Right.
up until today.
Yeah.
Right.
So they had to change some
Yeah.
things around. They had to.
For sure.
And I just think it's great. And I think the way it's reflected in the show is great. And if you ask me, 2010 was too long to wait to
Right?
do that. Yeah,
Right.
much too long. Yeah.
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 One of my favorite moments in the entire like show so far was when Archie in the show is all about his music.
Yeah.
And there's that one scene when he walks into the room and the Pussycats are playing, they're practicing.
Oh,
and he walks
yeah.
in, he's like, "Can I be part? Like, can I like help you guys like write lyrics?" And she goes, "How are you, a white like guy, gonna
Right.
write lyrics for me? Like,
Right.
you have no idea what my struggle's been. You know,
How are
where
you
I
gonna
come
give me a
from.
voice?
Like,
Yeah.
how are you gonna be my
Uh-oh.
voice?" And I just found it so interesting. Like, it was an amazing line to say in a show
For
that's
sure.
very like.
In the pilot, it was just like
Yeah.
political
Yeah.
right
Yeah.
away.
Like Archie is that character that's so like do 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 like
Yeah.
I can help
I can-
anyone
and
like,
everyone will say
loves
yes to me.
Exactly.
I'm so charming.
And I
And
love
Josie's
how,
like, no.
she's like, I don't care about you. You can go sit there and shut your mouth and listen to us.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think that shows like how you were saying how the characters are so different. Like there's so much diversity. Like that it shows that power too.
For sure.
And that strength in like all these
sure.
characters. Cool. Rock on.
Yeah.
Josie and the Pussycats.
Yeah, right there. Okay, so in this section, we're going to talk about some of the major differences between the television show and the Archie comic books. And so, yeah, let's get right into it.
Let's get into it.
So what is one of the ones that come to your mind like right away?
I would say for me, we already touched on the diversity, so I
Right.
won't go into that again. That was one of the major things. But
Okay.
one thing that I love is the relationship between Betty and Veronica.
Yes.
Because when I was reading it, they were very competitive, and Veronica was more so the bully and
Oh, you
always
got that
kind
right.
of manipulating and scheming to get
Right.
Archie, and she didn't care if Betty got hurt in the process.
Right.
They were very much typical it was just catty girl
And it was always about
situations.
Archie.
Yes,
Yeah.
it was always about Archie.
Typical friend-enemy relationship.
Yeah,
sort
so
of.
frenemies, typical frenemies.
Did they ever help each other out in any situations, or was it always like for Veronica a selfish gain kind of thing?
For Veronica, at least when I was reading, she was most definitely selfish, and the only time she would allow Betty to have Archie is if she had a new guy, or if she was going out with Reggie instead that night because they were going somewhere fancy and she needed somebody with money. That was usually when she would throw Archie over, is when he didn't have enough money. Yeah, she was ruthless.
Oh my god.
Well, we are introduced to her as a self-proclaimed ice queen.
Yeah.
She does kind of show that side of herself, I think, in the beginning of the comic book. Does she change it all in the later gen and the newer gen kind of
yeah, well, I mean, of course Veronica still stays to her true, rich, spoiled self herself, but she is a little bit more willing to help others sometimes.
Oh, that's nice.
That's
progressive.
Yeah.
They evolved her a little bit.
Yeah, just keep the regular human being sessions going. She'll get it.
But in the show, she's a complete 180.
She's a
Oh,
complete
yeah.
It like
definitely.
totally brings her, like the whole thing with her dad, being corrupt and
having
all that.
yeah.
It totally brings her down, and she even admits it to Betty, like in the first or second episode.
Yeah,
she's like, I hated myself, who I was there. Like, I don't want to be that person, and so I want to help you.
It's kind of like, it's funny that you were saying it the way you were talking about the older comic books, and it's almost like in that line that you're saying, N-Bea, she was saying like, in the comic books, I was known as an ice queen, and in this show, I don't want to be seen as that.
Right. That's actually really,
because it's almost like she was making a point to say it, her old version self. But that being said, it is only the first season. We've only gotten to like maybe half of the first season. Do you guys think that is she's gonna revert 100%. To her old ways? And how do you think that might happen?
I hope not. I've already seen old Veronica in a pilot episode with her and Archie in the closet. I definitely don't want to see her go through like that again. But if she does go through it, then I hope it will be by accident.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. How about you, T?
I do see it happening because it's got to happen at some point.
Yeah.
I think maybe once Betty gets over this little juggy side crush. I know, which is adorable.
All the Bughead fans are going to kill you for saying
that.
Wait a minute. Hold it.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry. Wait a minute. Betty has a crush on Jughead in the Riverdale? Why is this the first I'm hearing of this?
Yeah. They're a big thing right now.
Sorry to interrupt,
you didn't get there. You didn't get there yet, eh?
No,
you didn't get there yet.
Okay.
Spoiler alert.
Sorry.
So I'm assuming that they don't have that relationship in the comics then.
No, because not to go off on another tangent, but Juggy was always very asexual in the comics.
Okay, what does that? What does that mean?
He never was interested in any girls in the comics, and Ethel was always chasing him.
Ethel.
I read about that. Yeah.
That's pretty much the Jughead
Ethel
comic version of Jughead.
Mugs.
Wow. Hey, Barb.
Ethel Mugs was always chasing him, but Juggy was always, they never acknowledged it, but he was always completely asexual.
Because it's interesting because they did an interview with Cole Sprouse, who plays Juggy.
Yeah.
And he's like, I want my character to be asexual. And I was like, why is he saying that? Like,
Right.
What does it matter? But that makes sense because in the comics, he never was chasing anyone.
No, he never had a love interest.
That's so
Never.
interesting.
Yeah.
So those are major differences in themselves, right?
Yeah.
The fact that they have a relationship in the show, and but like I said, I feel like
these characters so much more with the show. And it's amazing.
Right, and things can happen so quickly. Like I said, it's still only the first half of the first season.
And I think they have to eventually get to that triangle. And I think
for sure.
What's her face, Veronica?
Yep.
She said it in an interview. She was like, "It's gonna get there. We know it's gonna get
they
there."
got a
Because at the
kickstart
end
on
of
it, and
the
it's
day,
gonna
like,
keep going.
It's Archie and two girls, but let's just enjoy this time right now.
The murder. While everybody's distracted by the murder.
And a lot of people on Twitter are they really want Veronica and Betty like relationship to happen.
I mean, considering they literally had a full their own side comic books, the B&B series,
so cute.
Who knows, some little like Thelma and Louise kind of
relationship.
relationship.
For sure.
That'd be cool. But
so what's another difference for you guys?
Well, one quick thing to touch on regarding like the Cooper family, mainly though Betty, and and I think this might be a big difference, but Betty's personality. So in the comics, she used like I don't know, girl next door, sweetie, but she hardly ever rebelled. She wasn't as sneaky. But in the TV show, she's clearly trying to tarnish her good image. Sick of being controlled by her mother. Sick of like all the good stuff. She just wants to go bad. Good girl, kind of like a
good girl gone bad.
Yeah.
She's Rihanna.
Insert that black wave that you wears in the episode too.
We were talking about that before. We were like, I was like, hey, did you get to episode 3? Because she be crazy.
yeah.
She put that black wig on and
Turned up.
like,
Yeah,
That
she
was
a different person.
clearly a different side of Betty Cooper. I would never have thought could be
Right?
coming on that show.
And it's so amazing because when you are a comic book reader, you're so there's so much like loyalty that you have to those characters. Like,
Yeah, an
you
investment.
You know Betty as this girl, and you know Veronica as this girl, and Archie. And then when your characters change, like
Oh,
they
yeah.
shift, you're like, what?
Oh, yeah.
What? But it's amazing. It's so entertaining to
yeah,
see
I'm
that.
sure,
You know?
I'm sure.
Betty
Yeah.
is definitely not a victim in the show the
Hell
way she
no.
is in the
Oh.
comic books. Like, you know,
Yeah.
everybody just
Oh,
kind
no,
of
she
stepping
didn't.
over her.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So, yeah, I love it.
awesome.
I love her character in the
Yeah, yeah.
show. Yeah.
that's awesome. That's really good to hear.
Yeah.
Progressive for poor Betty.
There's just so
Yeah.
many layers
Yeah.
to each character, and
Yeah.
it just makes it more fun to watch.
yeah.
Let's see. When I was reading, one big thing that stood out to me is that when I was reading, Veronica lived with her dad
Yeah.
and not her mom. There was
Okay.
actually never
There was
that I
like less
recall.
mention.
Yeah, I don't remember them mentioning her mom
Hermione.
or why she wasn't in the picture or
Yeah.
anything
Okay.
like that. And her dad was much older. He had white hair.
He had white hair,
and
yeah.
and he was just a typical overprotective or overbearing dad.
And they were rich, right?
yes,
so he was
he
like,
was
Yep.
rich.
and he didn't like Archie.
No, not at all. He
Oh.
thought he was just a goof and not,
Right,
not
not
rich
smart.
enough
Yep.
and
He
all
got no
that.
money.
Yeah.
Not rich enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if she was Latina in the comics, there was no mention of
Yeah.
that either.
Well, their last name
Yeah.
is Lodge, so
Well,
I really can't
yeah.
imagine them being like Falal.
She's probably
like,
half and half.
You know what I mean?
and
Now,
half, yeah.
now in the show, her mom
Okay.
is Latina, so that
Yeah.
makes
Right.
sense.
Fair enough. Yeah.
But that's interesting, yeah. In terms of her dad, the last episode that we left off with, they get a call from her dad on the phone.
Yeah.
We don't hear the conversation,
Yeah.
but
It's about to
alluding
happen.
to
Yeah.
it.
It's alluding to like the conversation that they're about to have with him.
I feel like I'd want to see him before season's end, but I don't know if he'll get out of jail.
True.
But he's gonna appear at some point. We know that.
True.
Did they mention at what
Okay.
when he's getting out or how long he's
No,
in for?
they didn't.
Oh, so
and
we
I
have
almost
no
feel like
idea.
that call
Oh.
is gonna lead to something.
Uh-oh.
Because they didn't play the call, and I was like, why didn't they just play the call?
Right.
But I
right.
bet you something's gonna. He's be like, I got out or something.
Oh.
Daddy got
Out?
I can't wait to see who they cast to play him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
That's the thing. I think there's a lot of characters that are just kind of waiting in the sidelines. Like we said, Molly Ringwald being
Yeah.
cast for Archie's mom.
Yeah.
All these characters are like just like kind of sitting and waiting for them to be thrown into this whole situation. You know, it's kind of cool and exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What else? Any other? I wrote down Jason Blossom.
Oh.
Because when we were talking,
Yeah.
you were saying how he did exist.
Yeah, he actually
the
didn't
comics.
exist in the Archie comics,
Yeah.
Jason.
And he's Cheryl's sister,
Well,
obviously.
yeah,
right?
still.
Cheryl's
Yeah.
brother, twin brother.
Brother.
Well, yeah, twin brother.
Brother, yeah.
Same obnoxious person.
Yeah. Was he like a villain character? Was he good or?
Well, I'm not sure about villain, but he definitely wasn't like good man, good boy, this
Okay.
and such. Jason's basically similar to Cheryl's what I'm trying to say. So basically everything you could say about Cheryl is basically everything you can probably say about Jason.
What did they do in the comics?
Like, I don't know, red hair, kind of a mischievous bit. Jason always, in fact, from some of the comics I've seen, Jason always occasionally plays a little hooky with Betty a little.
Oh,
Yeah.
Betty.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Oh,
Oh.
and- Well, like,
Well, in the show, I guess it's the sister,
The
right?
Yeah.
sis.
Jason and his
Okay.
sister now.
yeah.
True.
Interesting. I wonder if in the comics, and maybe you can speak to this, but in the comics, do the families have a rivalry? Like, I know in the show, the Coopers and the Blossoms hate each other because
Yeah.
there was some maple
So, like,
syrup
Yeah, they do.
drama.
But
But I
there's
wonder if
actually
in
no
show-
family rival between the Coopers and the Blossoms in the comics that I could actually come up with. So,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah, they probably don't have time to like do all that
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah,
to write
no.
and,
it's,
like, draw that
yeah,
out.
no, I don't
Yeah.
think so.
Another main difference I like to go over is Miss Grunty because there are like a lot of changes with that
Yeah.
girl.
For sure,
let's
she's
talk
a
about
huge.
her.
Yeah, she's
Yeah.
huge.
So in the comics, she's like white-haired Riverdale High teacher. She's basically a history teacher. But in the TV series, well, she's still a teacher at Riverdale High, but different hair color. She teaches music now, and
Much
and-
younger.
Yeah, and she she's like more dark and mysterious. She had an affair with Archie, which was eventually exposed, and she had to leave town. And there was even the fact that she even had another identity. What was it? Jennifer Gibson?
Yeah,
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she's shady.
Yeah.
Oh, she's shady for
She's
sure.
shady. And we find out in the show that she took Grundy's identity.
Yeah.
Which was so cool, the way
Yeah.
they made the picture
Yeah.
look
like
with the shirt, with the collar.
Right.
Because that's always what she would wear in
Right.
the comics. That was so awesome.
Right.
50 Shades of Grundy.
So, yeah, like just even speaking to her, I don't trust her at all. I feel like she has something to do with something.
Yeah.
Because she also had an affair with Jason Blossom.
Well, we
Wait,
know
what?
that she had classes. She was tutoring.
Oh,
Wait,
she
no.
was-
Yeah.
She probably did.
Yeah, most likely.
Most
Yeah,
likely,
that's
most
what we're
likely.
assuming.
I'm thinking that, and I
Wow.
Yeah.
She's a great robber.
Oh, naughty Grundy.
We have any big things that you guys are excited for? Are you guys
Yeah,
excited
what do you
to
guys want to
see?
see like in the season?
I want to see some Molly Ringwald.
Some Molly Ringwald realness.
I want to see some more Fred Andrews, aka
course you
Dylan
do.
McKay.
Wow.
That's all just your own like personal desire.
Desires.
Exactly. But I'm interested to see how the thing plays out with Juggy and Betty. Like,
Yeah.
where are they taking this?
Yeah.
And because that I did not expect. I actually didn't expect that at all.
Yeah.
And more about the murder, because I have no idea. I actually have no theories whatsoever on who
Okay.
Who it could
is
be.
behind the murder. So
Oh,
I'm interested
yeah.
to see like
Yeah.
how everybody's
Really
stories-
tough to say.
Yeah, I want to see how they all tie it together, and I'm interested to see, are they going to try to wrap it up before season 1 and move on to other things,
Yeah.
or are they going to drag this out for a while?
Oh.
I'm excited. I don't really care about the murder. Like whoever killed him. Jason. Like I don't really care about Jason. Like you know what I
Exactly.
mean? Like he was there from the
Exactly.
beginning. He's
Right.
dead somebody at the end.
The show's making
Yeah,
him feel
right?
important.
So
Yeah.
it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
I'm interested. You said the Betty and Juggy thing.
Yeah.
I'm interested. I want to see, because we know Betty she might be unstable. We know that, right? For the first episode, she was taking her Adderalls.
True.
We saw her in the black wig. I want to see her like completely freak
Flip
out,
out, yeah.
flip out.
Right, right.
And I almost feel like it started off with Polly being the crazy one, like, you know, and everyone's saying that Polly's crazy and Betty's like the normal sister, but the whole time Betty's like, I'm not Polly, I'm not crazy. By that end of the season, imagine if it totally flips and Polly's like the normal one and Betty's like lost her.
Yeah, it's definitely possible.
Her
for
marbles.
sure.
Yeah.
That'd
Wow.
be really
Sure.
cool to see on
For
camera.
sure.
And
Quite
maybe
the
Jughead like can't
twist.
help her.
Yeah.
He's like, I can't bring you back. Like you're too cray from me.
I don't really know. I think my biggest thing is I'd really like to see that B&V
Yeah,
kind
for
of
sure.
break.
Yeah.
I'd like to see a little bit more
Really?
drama on that point. But I think
Yeah.
you're right. I think she's busy doing her own thing.
Yeah.
No, but also I think
Yes.
you're right, because I think now that like Polly's safe, like they found Polly.
Yeah.
She's
Okay.
with Veronica in that hotel.
It actually is a
Maybe
perfect
now there's more
disaster.
time
You know,
for,
like for all we know that
never
something can happen
know.
between, you know, Polly and the lodges, her staying there,
Yeah.
that Betty will be like, why did you do that? I can't believe you did that,
Yeah.
Veronica.
Oh.
You know?
And with Betty and Veronica, I think because Veronica just got to town, I think they're gonna first work on building a really deep friendship
Yes.
between them.
So
they
that
can tear it
is-
down.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, boy.
How exciting.
Just when things couldn't get any more tense and suspenseful.
Exactly.
Who do you guys see? Maybe this can be like our final. Who do you guys see more, like Archie, Veronica, or Archie and Betty?
Oh, girl. That question's been plaguing me for years now. Yeah.
Yeah, from a long-standing fan T, what would
Yeah.
like? Who did you ever want to like ship together?
Okay,
Well-
no doubt. For me, it was always Betty.
Betty,
Yeah.
Betty and
Yeah.
Archie.
I always wanted Betty. It actually really annoyed me in the show when Archie said to Juggy that it was no problem if he and Betty were. That actually really annoyed me.
What?
I feel like that's probably the most imminent thing that's going to happen.
yeah.
Some sort of triangle between them three. Do you not think that that's going to happen
Oh
in the next
yeah, we said
little
it, like
while?
it's gonna be. I can see it like being a whole square
For sure.
like Juggy's
yeah.
out of the square, and,
Oh,
like,
oh.
you know, and,
Yeah.
and I almost feel like Archie said that now, but I feel like he's gonna feel
It's
some
gotta
type of way
change.
soon. I
It's
feel like he's
gotta
gonna be like, hold
change.
I
on.
hope so.
I don't know.
I hope so.
There
So,
has to be something.
Yeah.
There has to be some pull that Archie has. In that first episode, he looked at it and he was like, I don't like you like that at all.
Yeah.
And I was like, come on, there has to be something that you feel for
He's
her.
like, I love you.
Something.
Like a sister.
Yeah.
It's the worst. It's the worst thing to say. Yeah.
Where's that love triangle, people? Come on.
Where is that love triangle?
Yeah, so I'm always all for Betty.
Betty.
I'm
Team
Team Betty all the way.
And how does she
Hashtag
how does she turn that in the comics? How does she use it to her advantage to become that charming person that he's kind of head over heels for? Because I'm sure it's happens a few times back and forth.
It does, yeah. There was definitely times when he favored Betty just because Veronica would do something so dirty.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So she was always the
always like
fallback.
second.
Yeah,
But there was
that's
never.
Yeah, but that's just not cool, though.
Yeah.
I know, it's not
Yeah.
cool at all, but she
Yeah.
was definitely the fallback, and Veronica was always his number one choice. And it was always when...
Yeah, it's
Veronica
weird how the
was-
Archie comics was designed like that. I mean, like, whenever he sees Veronica, he just goes, whoop, bye, Betty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's why I kind of love her
She
character.
deserves it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She deserves the win.
Yeah.
No, she deserves someone else who likes her, pays attention to her.
Well, but Archie doesn't.
Like Archie's no, you know what I mean? And that's what the show's trying to be like. It's why are you chasing this guy? What
Yeah,
are you doing
no,
for
it's
you?
true.
Well, as fair as that is, it's technically Veronica's beauty, in my opinion, that's basically hypnotizing Archie's thoughts a little bit.
Yes.
So I wouldn't really say it's completely Archie's thought. I mean, he could have a little more resistance power. I mean, at least he could have that.
Yeah.
They're both very beautiful women
Yeah.
in the comics and in the show.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
don't know. I'm sure it's tough for him to decide. But
And he has more than just those two.
yeah,
Everyone
he's
else
got everybody
following
coming.
him.
Yeah, exactly.
The damn teachers.
Yeah.
Well, small town, slim pickings.
Yeah, that's true.
It's all in a little town called Riverdale.
Yeah.
Even with Cheryl, she has some sort of connection with him at some point in time too.
Oh,
no,
does she?
Doesn't she have some? Like,
Cheryl
Does she?
Blossom?
does she-
Yeah. Even in the comics, she was kind of attracted to Archie. She would basically be the invader of the love triangle, stealing Betty and Veronica away from Archie whenever she could.
I feel like that's when
Yeah,
she
it's
was how
coming,
she was
it's coming.
introduced. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of players in that. But
Wow.
I can.
Yeah.
I can. Who do you want to be together?
Oh my God. I just said it. I don't want either one to be with Archie.
Either one?
Archie
Well, I can
doesn't
understand
deserve-
Veronica
I'm serious.
because of the
I don't
witches,
think Archie
but-
deserves either one. I think Archie and Val right now makes the most sense. I feel like he's so into her.
Yeah.
Oh.
And like she's bringing out this passion that he finds for music, and like they have that connection. You know, like it makes
Right.
sense. I believe it.
Yeah.
I don't believe like the Veronica, Archie, Betty, Archie dynamic right now. Maybe later on it'll come
maybe.
through more, and they'll show why they're connected and why they feel.
I suppose in the
have
show you have
feelings,
a
but
point there. Yeah.
I don't know. I can't.
I think Archie, and I think that's why they've been so successful with the comic books for this much time, is you always see him as someone who shouldn't really be with these girls, and you really wonder why the entire time. Why is this guy even getting
he keeps
all
getting
this attention?
Well, I mean, like between the two beauties and the fact that in the comics he keeps getting himself into 2 dates with both of these people at the same
Yeah.
time, and always keeps getting caught.
he obviously doesn't have.
He doesn't really plan his
schedule.
plans
He doesn't
very
have a
well.
calendar.
No.
app on his
He's
phone.
iCal.
But
Maybe that's what we love about Archie.
But yeah, I think that it's always that constant, like seeing him beyond the people that he's with, and maybe it doesn't really matter who he's with. At the end of the day, you see these two strong characters, and now that they've been built out even more in the show, you kind of want to see them standing alone and finding their own way and their own kind of connections. And I think the biggest and best example of that is the fact that they pit Jughead and Betty together, because in a natural world that might work. That make more sense.
Yeah.
But in the comic books, it just wasn't a part of that dynamic. That just never made sense. But in this show, they're able to say, Jughead as a standalone character, he obviously gets attracted to Betty because she's just as investigative and a little crazy, just like he is a little bit. So he finds those kind of connections. Whereas in the show, in the comic books, those connections are never made.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that there is always a possibility.
What about you?
I think I kind of agree with you. I think I'm on the other side of it only because I always really liked Veronica as a character. I think she was always like that sassy kind of fiery girl that we get to see, and I think that it was kind of cool to see her being the boss in the relationships with Archie as well. Whenever she was with him, she was always the one that was kind of like pushing him around and telling him to do things, and he would be so doting to her that I think it's kind of cool, because I think he kind of deserves it. I think he kind of deserves being because he's just is that person. He's that kind of person who kind of just like floats through life and kind of like charms his way through life. So I think he deserves someone who has a little bit of control. Whether or not I think that they should last forever, I think that I don't know about that, but I definitely like to see Veronica kind of push him around a bit. It's more for her than for him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's more for her to kind of just enjoy a fun relationship.
Yeah.
I think
Oh,
she would
well.
enjoy herself with Archie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. If you asked me before the show started,
yeah.
I would probably say Veronica just because she's a more interesting character than Betty from the comics. But the show did a complete 180
Oh, for
for
sure.
both characters.
For
Oh,
sure.
Betty's pretty cool too, though.
I like
Yeah.
seeing Betty, but I like seeing Betty who she's with right now
Yeah,
too.
yeah, yeah.
So
I'm
like,
just saying,
if
like,
we were to
as
pair them all
individuals,
together, I
yeah.
would definitely see them the way that's kind of structured. But
Yeah.
it's cool. It's cool.
thanks.
Thanks for joining us, guys.
no
Guys,
problem.
that was
Thank
awesome.
you.
That was a
Fine.
lot of fun.
Thank you.
Do you think we can come back sometime?
Yeah,
for
definitely.
sure.
Yeah.
We'll throw it to our Twitter followers and people if you guys want to hear more of this, a little bit more of the comparisons between the comics. Now we have some.
Did we do a good job, guys?
Yeah,
Seriously,
let us
'cause I
know.
The comic book fans are like hardcore.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, if you guys have any more questions for our comic book experts, tweet us and let us know,
Tweet
and we
us
can
at-
try to make this happen again.
Tweet us at recap_rewind.
Yep.
Follow us.
Subscribe,
Like.
and that's it.
That's it.
Okay.
Bye.
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 See ya.